They tried to ruin my job without knowing that I was the one paying their salaries. Stay with me because what started as betrayal turned into a very powerful comeback. And if you enjoy stories about quiet revenge and big success, don't forget to subscribe. People often say money cannot buy happiness. That may be true, but money can help you plan the perfect revenge. Especially when your own family treats you badly and doesn't know you secretly have $500 million. I learned this lesson the hard way last month when my parents and my brother tried to destroy my career. What they didn't know was that they were actually attacking the owner of the company. My name is Sable Thorne, but most people in business simply call me Mel. Officially, I am the new Chief Strategy Officer at Evolyn Dynamics, a modern biotech company located in Seattle. But there is something my family does not know. 2 months ago, I quietly became the biggest owner of the company. I bought most of the shares through a private trust so that no one would realize it was me. The story of how I reached this moment started almost 18 years ago. Back then, I was a quiet student studying biomedical engineering at Georgia Tech. I had a scholarship, which meant I worked very hard to keep my grades high so I could stay in school. At the same time, my younger brother Lucian was studying at Stanford. Our parents paid for everything for him: his tuition, his apartment, his food, and even his trips. My mom often said, "Lucian needs support." But Mel, you've always been so independent. Independent was not even the right word. I worked nonstop. I spent long nights in the lab doing research. During the day, I tutored other students to earn extra money. I also took coding jobs online to pay for books and rent. Meanwhile, Lucian enjoyed a very comfortable life. He traveled around Europe during his vacations. He posted photos of himself tasting expensive wine and relaxing on yachts with his friends. But I never complained. I stayed patient and focused. I believed that if I kept working hard, my dream would come true someday. And eventually it did. By the time I turned 30, I had already started and sold 2 biotech companies. They were successful, and I earned a lot of money from them. But I kept everything very quiet. My name was not in the news. I used other companies and business structures to move the money, so people would believe I was just a normal employee slowly building her career. Why did I hide my success? Because I knew that money can change the way people treat you. My parents always praised Lucian because he had what they called a stable job in corporate sales. They thought his job was real business. They treated my work like it was some shortage experiment that might fail at any moment. At family dinners, my mom would often say things like, "You should talk to Lucian. He understands business better. Maybe he can help you get into a real company." Instead of arguing, I simply smiled and let them believe what they wanted. I acted like I needed advice. But secretly, I was planning something much bigger. For more than a year, I had been working at Evolyn Dynamics. To everyone else, I was just another quiet executive doing strategy work. But behind the scenes, I was slowly buying the company. Evolyn Dynamics was undervalued. That means the company was worth more than people realized. It had brilliant scientists and promising research projects. Using several trusts in different companies, I slowly purchased more and more shares. I did everything carefully so that no one would notice that the same person was behind all the purchases. Eventually, I controlled enough shares to own the company. But nobody knew. So when the board of directors offered me the position of Chief Strategy Officer, they believed they were promoting a loyal employee. They had no idea they were giving the job to the person who owned the company. Lucian's reaction to my promotion was exactly what you would expect. At one of our monthly family dinners, he leaned back in his chair and smirked. "Well, it must be nice to finally get lucky," he said. "But leadership in a big company is very different from playing with science projects. I hope you're not in over your head." Mom and Dad exchanged worried looks. "Maybe Lucian could mentor you," Mom suggested kindly. "He has been managing teams for years, sweetheart." I smiled politely and tried not to laugh. If only they knew that the papers in my home safe proved I owned the entire company. "I'll keep that in mind," I said calmly. But Lucian did not stop with rude comments. My promotion had clearly bothered him. For our entire lives, he had been the favorite child. He was the one with the respectable career and the confident personality. I was always the quiet nerd who preferred books and laboratories. The first shortage thing happened a few weeks later. Lucian started visiting Evolyn Dynamics during lunch hours. He said he was just in the area and wanted to stop by to say hello. But from my office window upstairs, I could see him chatting with department heads and senior staff members. He laughed with them, told stories, and acted friendly. But I could tell what he was really doing. He was asking questions. He pretended to be concerned about his overworked sister. He asked people if they thought I was handling the leadership role well. He was searching for weaknesses. Then something even worse happened. Anonymous tips were sent to the company's human resources department. The messages accused me of lying about my university degrees. They said I had exaggerated my qualifications. Of course, the claims were completely false. My records were easy to verify. But the message was clear. Someone wanted to damage my reputation. When I confronted Lucian about it, he smiled sweetly. "I'm just worried about you," he said. "You know how tech companies are these days. Sometimes they promote women too quickly to improve diversity numbers. I'd hate to see you fail publicly." His words were insulting, but I stayed calm. Instead of stopping him, I let him continue. I wanted to see how far he would go. I received my answer yesterday. The board of directors received a sealed envelope. Inside was a thick report filled with fake bank statements, edited emails, and a detailed timeline designed to make me look like a criminal. The documents accused me of stealing money, committing insider trading, and falsifying company reports. It was a very impressive piece of fake work. Because of those accusations, the board scheduled an emergency meeting for Friday morning. Lucian somehow heard about the meeting through his office gossip network. At dinner the night before, he could barely hide his excitement. "The board wants me there tomorrow," he announced proudly. Apparently something big is about to happen at the top of the company. Mom and Dad smiled proudly. Neither of them even asked why I had not been invited to a meeting about my own leadership. What they did not know was that I had spent the entire night preparing my own evidence. I collected proof of every rumor Lucian had spread. I documented every attempt he made to sabotage my career. And this time, I was also ready to reveal the truth about who actually owned Evelyn Dynamics. Tomorrow my family will finally discover who was truly in charge. You might think I would feel angry or heartbroken that my own brother tried to destroy my career while my parents watched. But as I sat in my home office looking at the fake bank statements and forged emails, I felt so thoroughly calm. Lucian's plan had accidentally given me the perfect opportunity. For once, I would be able to confront not only his betrayal, but also the many years of being underestimated and ignored. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people believe they have already won. Then, at the last possible moment, they realized they were never in control. The board meeting was scheduled for exactly 9 o'clock in the morning. My family would walk into that room believing they were about to watch my downfall. Instead, they were about to learn a very important lesson. Never underestimate the quiet person in the corner, especially when that quiet person owns the entire table. Everything was ready. The stage was set. And for the first time in my life, I was actually excited about attending a meeting. I arrived at Evelyn Dynamics early on Friday morning, so I would not miss anything. At exactly 8:45 a.m., Lucian walked confidently into the lobby, wearing his best suit. Mom and Dad followed behind him, dressed nicely like they were attending a celebration. "Is the board ready for us?" Lucian asked the receptionist with obvious excitement. His expression reminded me of the time in 8th grade when he accidentally deleted my science project the night before it was due. From my office upstairs, I watched as they were guided into the executive conference room. Soon afterward, the board members arrived. They looked serious and quiet, just as I had requested. The night before, I had privately shared some information with them so they would understand the full situation. At exactly 9 o'clock, I stood up from my chair, took a deep breath, and walked down the hallway. It was time. Alaric Beaumont, the chairman of the board, was speaking when I entered the room. "These accusations against Ms. Thorne are extremely serious," he was saying. "Sorry I'm late," I said cheerfully as I took a seat at the table. Lucian looked up quickly. His confident smile suddenly turned into confusion. "Mel, this is a closed meeting," he said sharply. "You weren't invited." I calmly folded my hands. "Actually," I replied, "I invited myself. It's difficult to have a board meeting without the company's owner." The room immediately became silent. Lucian's mouth fell open. Mom blinked several times in surprise. Dad looked like he had just swallowed something very sour. "What are you talking about?" Lucian stuttered. "Evelyn Dynamics belongs to shareholders." "It's a public company," he added, trying to sound confident. "Correction," I said gently, nodding to my assistant Nimra. She stepped forward and began handing folders to everyone around the table. "Evelyn Dynamics was a public company until 2 months ago," I explained. "That's when it was quietly purchased by Thorne's Strategic Holdings." I paused for a moment. "Would you like to guess who owns that company?" As people opened their folders, realization slowly spread around the room. Several directors looked up at me with wide eyes. For weeks they had been wondering who the mysterious buyer behind the acquisition was. Now they finally knew. "This is impossible," Lucian whispered. "You can't afford something like that. You're just a lab geek?" I finished for him with a small smile. "Just a coder? Yes, you've made that opinion very clear many times." Then I turned toward Nimra again. "Please play the recordings." She tapped her tablet. Suddenly Lucian's voice filled the conference room. "Between us, Sable isn't leadership material," he said in the recording. "She's brilliant in the lab, but this role? She's going to fail." Another recording began. "Have you noticed anything unusual in her department's finances? Maybe someone should investigate." Every secret whisper, every lie, and every attempt to damage my reputation played one after another. Lucian slowly sank deeper into his chair. The color disappeared from his face as everyone in the room listened. "And finally," I said calmly, holding up the envelope he had sent to the board, "there is this." I placed the thick packet of fake documents on the table. A collection of forged bank statements, edited emails, and completely fabricated accusations. I looked directly at Lucian. An attempt to destroy someone's career through lies about stealing money, breaking company rules, and cheating the system. Lucian looked shocked and frightened. His face had lost its color, and his voice shook when he spoke. "Did you really think no one would check the truth before taking action?" Lucian said. "I was only trying to protect the company." His voice cracked as he continued talking, and he sounded more desperate with every word. "You're not even qualified," he said angrily. "You've never been the one who succeeds. You've never been the one who wins. You're not the one who deserves to be here." I stayed calm. I didn't raise my voice. I simply looked at him and spoke quietly. "No, Lucian," I said. "I'm the one who deserves to show everyone the truth about you." The room became completely silent. "You tried to spy on the company," I continued. "You tried to change how people see the company by spreading lies. And you almost put the future of this company in danger because of those lies." No one spoke for a moment. Then Mom's voice broke the silence. Her voice sounded worried and weak. "Surely you wouldn't ruin your own brother's life," she said. I slowly turned to look at her. "Like you tried to ruin mine?" I asked calmly. "Like you came here today just to watch it happen?" Dad raised his hand slightly, as if he wanted to explain something. "We were just supporting Lucian," he said quietly. "No," I said, cutting him off. "You were doing what you've always done. You assumed he was the one worth supporting." Then I turned away from them and faced the people sitting around the long table. They were the board members of the company. "I apologize for how dramatic this meeting has become," I said while standing up again. "But I need everyone here to understand exactly what has been happening." I looked around the room slowly. Lucian Thorne has committed several serious violations while trying to destroy my role in this company. I paused so everyone could think about my words. His actions did not only target me. They also put Evelyn Dynamics at serious legal and business risk. One of the board members, Alaric Beaumont, cleared his throat. "What would you like the board to do, Miss Thorne?" he asked carefully. I sat down again and folded my hands neatly on the table. "First," I said, "I want it officially recorded that the board has reviewed every accusation that was made against me." I paused again. "And after checking the real documents and internal records, those accusations have been proven completely false." Several board members nodded quietly. "Second," I continued, "I want a formal letter sent to Lucian's employer explaining his actions. That letter should include the audio recordings, the fake documents he created, and the evidence showing his attempt at corporate spying." Lucian suddenly spoke loudly. "You can't do that," he shouted. His voice sounded desperate and frightened. "You'll destroy my career." I looked at him calmly. "Like you tried to destroy mine?" I asked. "The difference is that I have real proof. I have real documents showing the actions you took. The documents you used to accuse me were fake." Then I turned back to the board. "There is one more request," I said. "I want it officially documented that Lucian Thorne and both of our parents are permanently banned from Evelyn Dynamics property. If they try to contact any staff members or interfere with company work again, legal action will begin immediately." Mom suddenly began crying. Her mascara ran down her face as she looked at me. "Mel, please," she cried. "We're family." I gave a short, cold laugh. "Family supports each other," I said. "Family celebrates when someone succeeds. Families don't create fake documents and spread lies just because they cannot accept someone else's success." Then I pulled out one last folder from my stack of papers. "This," I said while sliding it across the table, is the acquisition contract for my first biotech company. I opened it so everyone could see. I sold that company for $50 million when I was 27 years old. The room grew even quieter. Then I placed another document on the table. My second company sold for $180 million 2 years later. I turned and looked at Dad. I could have bought the golf club membership you always wanted, I said. I could have paid for every luxury vacation you gave Lucian as a reward. But I didn't. The board members stared at the numbers written on the pages. Those numbers broke the story my family had believed about me for so many years. I spoke again after a moment of silence. I stayed quiet about my success for a long time. I wanted to see who would stand by me when they believed I had nothing. I looked at my parents. You all failed that test. Lucian's face turned pale. You're firing me from my job, he whispered. No, I said softly. Your own actions did that. Just like you tried to do to me. The only difference is that you actually committed the things you were accused of. I stood up and gathered the rest of my papers. This board meeting is now finished, I said clearly. Alaric, please make sure all the documents are properly recorded and stored. Then I looked at Lucian, Mom, and Dad. Security will escort you out. I started walking toward the door. Wait, Lucian called. His voice cracked as he spoke again. Please. I turned around slowly. I'm sorry, he said. I was jealous. I couldn't accept that you were finally doing better than me. His eyes were filled with tears. We can fix this, right? He said. We're still family. I looked at him quietly for a moment. Do you know the difference between us, Lucian? I asked. He looked up at me with hope in his eyes. When you thought I was struggling, you pushed me down even more, I said. But when I was succeeding, I kept quiet because I didn't want to make you feel small. I took a slow breath. That is the difference between real success and whatever game you were playing. The next few weeks were very eventful. Lucian lost his job almost immediately. His company reviewed the evidence and quickly decided to fire him. News about my success at Evelyn Dynamics began spreading. Soon, the same people at the country club who used to praise Lucian started asking questions about me. Mom and Dad began leaving long voice messages filled with tears. Lucian sent several handwritten apology letters. Even his therapist mailed a letter explaining that Lucian was working hard to change and become a better person. I saved all of those messages and letters, but I never replied to them. 3 months later, I was working late in my office when my assistant, Callista, called through the intercom. There's someone here to see you, she said. He says it's personal. When the door opened, I saw Lucian. But he looked very different from the brother I had known. He looked thinner and more tired. His hair was shorter. He was not wearing an expensive watch or a fancy suit anymore. Instead, he wore a simple button-down shirt and held a plain Nimera envelope. I'm not staying, he said quickly, raising his hand. I just need to say something. He walked forward and placed the envelope on my desk. This has everything, he said. Passwords, contacts, and information I collected when I was trying to sabotage you. I'm also sending letters to the board and to my old employer admitting everything. No excuses. I watched him silently for a moment. Why now? I finally asked. Because you were right, he said. I wasn't building anything real. You were. And I hated you for it. He turned and started walking toward the door. Then he stopped. I'm starting over, he said. A small startup. Entry-level position. No shortcuts this time. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that letting me fail taught me more than our parents ever did by helping me cheat. He reached the door. Lucian, I said softly. He turned around quickly. Hope appeared in his eyes for a moment. Send me your resume in a year, I said gently. Not for a leadership position. But if you're serious about earning things honestly, we always need people willing to start small and work their way up. A tear rolled down Lucian's cheek. He nodded quietly, took a deep breath, and left the office without another word. 6 months later, Evelyn Dynamics became even more successful than I had imagined. We were developing biotech solutions that could truly change people's lives. The company was expanding quickly and creating hundreds of new jobs across the Pacific Northwest. We were building something real, something that would last. Mom and Dad still sent messages sometimes. Most of the time, they only contacted me when they needed something or wanted to brag about their CEO daughter to their friends. I stayed polite, but I kept my distance. The approval I once wanted from them so badly no longer mattered to me. The corner office they once said I would never earn now had a beautiful view of the Seattle skyline. Some evenings I sat by the window and watched the sun slowly disappear behind the mountains. During those quiet moments, I thought about family, ambition, and the power of being underestimated. Last week I received a holiday card from Lucian. There was no guilt in it, no requests, just a simple note. "You succeeded not because of us," he wrote, "but in spite of us. I'm learning to do the same. Maybe that is the real revenge. Quiet success that you truly earn."